Hello, my dear children. Myself Sujata. Today we will learn a new chapter from Politics, Chapter 4 Working of Institutions. Okay, let us see the topics to be discussed. We'll have an overview of the chapter. We'll discuss on how is a major policy decision taken, who are the decision makers, about Mandal Commission, what is institution and what is the need for political institutions. Okay, let us have an overview of it. We all know that democracy is not just about people electing their rulers. In a democracy, the rulers have to follow some rules and procedures. They have to work with and within institutions. We try to understand this by looking at the manner in which major decisions are taken and implemented in our country. We'll also look at how disputes regarding these decisions are resolved. In this process, we come across three major institutions like legislature, executive, and judiciary. As you all know, legislature is an assembly of people's representatives with the power to enact laws for a country. They make laws. Whereas executives is a body of persons having authority to initiate major policies. And judiciary, it is an institution empowered to administer justice and provide a mechanism for the resolution of legal disputes. The basic objective here is to understand how all these institutions together carry on the work of government. Okay, now let us see how a major policy decision is taken by the government. We'll consider an example. A government order on August 13, 1990, the Government of India issued an order. It was called an office memorandum. Like all government orders, it had a number and is known by that. So, Office Memorandum Number 3601231/90 SCT dated 13/8/1990. The Joint Secretary, an officer in the Department of Personnel and Training in the Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, signed the order. Let us see how the decision was taken and what happened later. Okay, look at this example. That is, this is the memorandum produced, dated 13/8/1990, and subject was 27% reservation for socially and educationally backward classes in civil posts or services. This order announced a major policy decision. It said that backward classes, that is, socially and educationally backward classes, in short SCBC, socially and educationally backward classes. 27% of the vacancies in civil posts and services under the Government of India are reserved for the socially and educationally backward caste, or SCBC is another name for all those people who belong to castes that are considered backward by the government. The benefit of job reservation was till then available only to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, called SCBC. As I said earlier, socially and educationally backward castes was introduced. Only persons who belonged to backward classes were eligible for this quota of 27% jobs. Others could not compete for these jobs. Okay, now let us discuss about who are these decision makers. Who decided to issue this memorandum? Clearly, such a big decision could not have been taken by the person who signed that document. The officer was merely implementing the instructions given by the Minister of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, of which the department was a part. So we know that a major decision would have involved other major functionaries in our body. So the major functionaries in our country include President, who is the head of the state and is the highest formal authority in the country. Next, the Prime Minister, who is the head of the government and actually exercises all governmental powers. He takes most of the decisions in the cabinet meetings. And you know, the parliament consists of the president and two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The Prime Minister must have the support of a majority of Lok Sabha members. So now let us understand where all these people involved in this decision regarding the office memorandum. Okay, let us know more about this office memorandum. This office memorandum was the culmination of a long chain of events. The government of India had appointed the Second Backward Classes Commission in 1979. It was headed by B.P. Mandal. Hence, it was popularly called the Mandal Commission. It was asked to determine criteria to identify the socially and educationally backward classes in India and recommend steps to be taken for their advancement. So, this commission was mainly to identify the socially and educationally backward classes in India and recommend steps to be taken for their advancement. The commission gave its report in 1980 and made many recommendations. Now, let us try to know about the recommendations made by the commission. One of these was that 27% of government jobs be reserved for the socially and educationally backward classes. The report and recommendations were discussed in the parliament. For several years, many parliamentarians and parties kept demanding the implementation of the Commission's recommendations. Then came the Lok Sabha election of 1989. In its election manifesto, the Janata Dal promised that if voted to power, it would implement the Mandal Commission report. The Janata Dal did form the government after this election. Its leader, VP Singh, became the Prime Minister. Several developments took place after that. The President of India, in his address to the Parliament, announced the intention of the government to implement the recommendations of the Mandal Commission. On 6th August 1990, the Union Cabinet took a formal decision to implement the recommendations. Next day, Prime Minister VP Singh informed the Parliament about this decision through a statement in both the Houses of Parliament. The decision of the Cabinet was sent to the Department of Personnel and Training. The senior officers of the department drafted an order in line with the Cabinet decision and took the minister's approval. An officer signed the order on behalf of the Union government. This was how Office Memorandum number 36012 bar 31 bar 90 was born on August 13, 1990. Newspapers and magazines were full of different views and opinions on this issue. It led to widespread protests and counter protests, some of which were violent. People reacted strongly because this decision affected thousands of job opportunities. Some felt that existence of inequalities among people of different castes in India necessitated job reservations. They felt this would give a fair opportunity to those communities who so far had not adequately been represented in government employment. When few supported, others felt that this was unfair as it would deny equality of opportunity to those who did not belong to backward communities. They would be denied jobs even though they could be more qualified. Some felt that this would perpetuate caste feelings among people and hamper national unity. The Supreme Court of India bunched all these cases together. This case was known as Indira Sani and others was Union of India case. 11 judges of the Supreme Court had heard arguments of both sides. By a majority, the Supreme Court judges in 1992 declared that this order of the Government of India was valid. At the same time, the Supreme Court asked the government to modify its original order. It said that well to do persons among the backward classes should be excluded from getting the benefits of reservation. Accordingly, the Department of Personnel and Training issued another office memorandum on September 8, 1993. Okay, now let us discuss on what is the need for political institutions. The government is responsible for ensuring security to the citizens and providing facilities for education and health to all. It collects taxes and spends the money thus raised on administration, defense, and development programs. It formulates and implements several welfare schemes. Some persons have to take decisions on how to go about these activities. Others have to implement these decisions. If disputes arise on these decisions or in their implementation, there should be someone to determine what is right and what is wrong. It is important that everyone should know who is responsible for doing what. It is also important that these activities keep taking place even if the persons in key positions change. So, to attend to all these tasks, several arrangements are made in all modern democracies. Such arrangements are called institutions. As you all know that a democracy works well when these institutions perform functions assigned to them. The constitution of any country lays down basic rules on the powers and functions of each institution. In the example above, we saw several such institutions at work. The Prime Minister and the Cabinet are institutions that take all important policy decisions. The civil servants working together are responsible for taking steps to implement the minister's decisions. Supreme Court is an institution where disputes between citizens and the government are finally settled. Okay, do you know why democratic governments insist on institutions? Institutions involve rules and regulations. This can bind the hands of leaders. Institutions involve meetings, committees, and routines. This often leads to delays and complications. Therefore, dealing with institutions can be frustrating. One might feel that it is much better to have one person take all decisions without any rules, procedures, and meetings. But that is not the spirit of democracy. Some of the delays and complications introduced by institutions are very useful. They provide an opportunity for a wider set of people to be consulted in any decision. Institutions make it difficult to have a good decision taken very quickly, but they also make it equally difficult to rush through a bad decision. Okay, now let us recap what we have learned in this session. We discussed on how is a major policy decision taken with an example of a government order, who were the decision makers. Important decision makers are President, Prime Minister, and Parliament. And we discussed what are institutions and what is the need of institution. These institutions ensure security to citizens They provide facilities like education, welfare, and health. They collect taxes. They undergo administration, formulate and implement policies, and resolve conflicts. So, hope you have understood. Now, go through the slides again and again. Meet you in the next session. Thank you.